Here's to whiskey kisses with the peaty taste of sin.
Greetings, whiskey folk. Welcome to the second episode of Drinking Out Loud. I'm your host, Adam Bradshaw. It's a pleasure to have you here back in my kitchen. And today we are going to be releasing a very different whiskey to the one we released yesterday. Thank you all for checking that one out, by the way. It's I had a lot of fun going through the live feed there and responding to everyone's comments. This one, however, is quite a different release. I say this one. This is just my warm-up dram. As I mentioned yesterday, stretching is important, so I'm warming up with a nice cask-strength Amroot peated whiskey. This one's been in my collection for a long time, since April 2008 is when it was bottled, apparently. So, had it a while. Getting down to the last little bit, so it's time to start finishing it off before it oxidizes too much. So yeah, this is a beautiful way to start up, and I always advise having a whiskey to wet your whistle before going into a tasting, before getting involved in something that you're trying to explore, because it's hard to drink whiskey on an empty stomach. So you gotta fill her up a little. This is a beautiful whiskey. One thing to note on this one is that it feels like it's got less peated over time. They say that whiskey doesn't age in the bottle, and that's it's true. Whiskey aging can only really happen with the interaction with the wood, but it does change a little, especially when it's got a lot of oxygen in the bottle, which is why I feel like I need to start finishing this off now, because it's quite low. The oxygen will interact with the liquid and change over time. It doesn't age, just changes. It might mellow. It might do a couple of different things, really, but always important to bear that in mind. Yeah, so a beautiful little cask-strength Amroot, and one that I'm quite familiar with and quite fond of. So today's big release. This, as I said, it's not the same kind of idea as the big release we did yesterday, which is something incredibly rare and exciting. This is something that is exciting, yes. Rare, maybe, not really. But just incredible value for money at the price that we're releasing it at today. And that whiskey is, drumroll please, the Amroot Peated Indian Single Malt Whiskey. Not the version, however, that was bottled in 2008, but rather this one. This is the version that is just a little bit more modern. I say a little bit more modern. It's actually from a few years ago now. I think this was bottled in 2005. Probably sellers on the actual bottle itself, but yeah. It's fantastic that we've managed to bring this in. The importers managed to bring this in from another part of the country, I believe, and we're getting a really good price on it to try and make a dent in their inventory. Beautiful, beautiful whiskey, and I hope it's as good as the old version from 2008 that I've got, because, as I mentioned, and as you just saw, my bottle's getting kind of low. It would be nice to top it up. So, what do we got here? Very, very similar bottle. Let's put them side by side. There you go. As you can see, a few changes over the years, not an awful lot. Interestingly, the ABV has not changed much. 62.8 on the new one compared to the 62.78. Might actually be exactly the same. Different markets demand different amounts of decimal places. So it might well be that the way Amroot releases this whiskey is they keep testing it until it reaches the right ABV, and then they release it. I don't know, actually. I should look into seeing if some of the other batches have that same ABV. And I just touched my face, so I'm gonna give a shout out again to Sheringham. Thank you for the hand sanitizer. And still getting used to this. We'll get there. Okay, so let's crack open this new bottle of the Amroot Peated Indian Single Malt Whiskey and see what we think of the new edition. Has it changed much over the years? So Amroot, you may or may not be familiar with them. I'm a big fan. If you're going to go for a single malt whiskey that isn't from Scotland, this is a great place to start. So has quite a long history, probably one of the longest histories for non-Scottish single malt whiskey. Neelakanta Rao Jagdal, I believe, is the name of the gentleman that started this distillery. It started a distillery actually in 1948. 1948, that's quite a while ago. That's almost puts it on par with the time of the Japanese whiskey distilleries. It's a few years after them, a couple of decades after, but similar kind of time period. So the distillery started in 1948 as a result of the relaxation of liquor laws in India. So liquor was allowed to be made, so God bless them, they made it. It's based in Bangalore. They make all kinds of spirits. We actually stock a couple in the Strath. We've got their Old Port rum. They also make brandies and grain whiskies and all kinds of things. But in 1982, they started making malt whiskey. And it was released for the first time in 1986 under the brand Prestige. And they actually they marketed it as a blended malt, which I don't know if that just meant that they were blending casks together and they didn't really understand the terminology, or whether they were actually blending other whiskies in with their own whiskey. Hard to say. It didn't really take off so much, and it was designed for the local market. But Neelakanth got really into his whiskey and started to get into the more global whiskey scene. And he saw what was happening in Scotland, and he wanted to make a whiskey that the Scots would be proud of. So in the early 2000s, he took his studies across to England and Scotland, learned a bit more about the industry and the process of making the whiskies, and then he adapted his distillery. It was no longer designed to make whiskey for the Indian market, for the Indian palate, but rather for the European and Scottish market. And in 2004, they actually launched the Amroot single malt whiskey in Scotland. And it was pretty popular. They did really well. It's kind of scuttled along for a few years. As you can see, this one's from, 2008? So not long after they first released the Amroot single malt. It wasn't really until 2010 where they came into the forefront of the whiskey scene. And that is when a gentleman called Jim Murray, who, take him or leave him personally, but he has a lot of sway in the whiskey world. Jim Murray rated an Amroot release as the third best malt whiskey in the world. Now, that suddenly put them on the map, and all of a sudden, importers around the world, including here in North America, started bringing in their whiskey, and whiskey drinkers around the world used it as a party trick. They'd throw it into a blind tasting and disguise it as a Speyside, or if they got a peated one, they disguise it as an Islay and see what people thought, and then be like, "Ha! It's an Indian whiskey. It's not even Scotch. Yes, silly fool." So for a little while, it was seen as a bit of a parlor trick, and now it's very much seen as one of the best malt whiskies in the world. It really is. So I'm going to put this glass over here and pour myself a glass of this new one. Now it's had a little bit of time to breathe. Now, of course, a freshly opened bottle is not going to perform at its best, but we'll get a bit of an idea of where this is headed. You might have noticed I just opened a brand new bottle. I didn't actually purchase this one. I guess technically right now it's stolen from the store, but it's going right back there after I finish this review, because we're actually going to save this and release it either as an in-store dram or as part of a tasting in the future, so that you can all have a chance to try this whiskey in the future. But we figure this is the perfect whiskey to spend some alone time with in the next couple of weeks. So if you're looking for a good bargain cask strength peated whiskey that you can have dropped off at your door in the next couple of days, then look no further. This may well be it. Yeah, as I thought, smells a little peatier than the edition that I had before. I think it did get a little less peaty over time. This side by side here. Definitely up the peat. It smells a little bit more wood fire as well. This one's a little bit more not quite medicinal, but a little bit more not plastically, not chemically, but not natural fire. I can't think of how to describe it right now. But this one feels like an actual fire. You've chopped some wood up and you're sticking it on the floor and you put a match to it and you've got this whiskey. I don't think it was quite as simple as that to make. I believe the process of making whiskey is substantially more complicated. But yeah, it's a great smell. Great smelling peated malt. The malted barley that they use at Amroot, as far as I'm aware, I think that they do their peating in India. I'm not sure, but I know for their unpeated malted barley, they say it comes from the foothills of the Himalayas, which is kind of neat. It travels quite a fair distance to actually get to Bangalore from there, I think. But yeah, kind of cool. Let's see what it tastes like. Oh yeah. Oh, that's got a lot more kick to it than its oxidized brother over here. It's punchy, it's rich smoke, it's a little bit of that iodine smoke in the flavor that you didn't really get on the nose. It's got caramel. This reminds me an awful lot of the cask strength quarter cask Lefroy that they did, the Kirchhoffs. It's that same kind of like raw smoke and wood and bourbon cask just all coming together beautifully. Yeah, and I've skirted around the price. I'm going to reveal that now and say that it's officially for sale right this second at strathliquor.com. The regular price on this before tax is $139.04. That's what the price was last time we had it on the shelf. That's what the price should be before we're passing on the discount from the importer. Passing on that discount, you can now get this right now for $85.63. That's one hell of a saving. And this is, I'm going to say right now, this is the best whiskey in our store for under $100. I don't think you can get a better whiskey for under $100. It's even under $100 after tax. So if you're looking for something smoky and something strong, it's not quite, I don't think it's quite at the strength. Actually, yeah, I think it is. I believe the strength for hand sanitizer is at least 60%. I might be wrong on that, but this technically could be made into hand sanitizer if you are running low. A little pricey for hand sanitizer, but your hands will smell amazing. So if you're looking for something to keep you going through the next couple of weeks in isolation, I'm more than happy to drive a couple of bottles of this over to you. Head to the web store right now. Again, that's strathliquor.com. If you happen to have found this video on YouTube and you're not a Dram Association member, you have no idea what the hell Strathliquor is, I should probably mention, hi, I'm Adam, I'm from BC, and this is a video designed and tailored for our local whiskey club, the Dram Association. Of course, anyone is more than welcome to join the Dram Association. Probably, if you're in Australia, it doesn't make much sense to join, but, you know, if you want to add your name to the list, you can. Send us a message. If we have anyone watching this from outside of Canada or outside of BC, shoot us a comment in the comment section below. And actually, if we have anyone commenting right now, the first person to comment outside of Canada, give me your address and I will send you one of these Dram Association lapel pins in the mail. You can be an honorary member of our whiskey club. So this is just something we're doing whilst we can't meet in person during the COVID-19 outbreak. My name's Adam Bradshaw. It has been a pleasure to see you all. Not sure when the next video release is going to be. It's going to be a couple of days. Actually, it's going to be, I think, Tuesday. I think Tuesday is going to be the next one. We're probably going to be a little later, probably 7 o'clock in the evening for an evening time release. We're actually doing an entire SNWS outturn in one of these videos. And it's not just going to be me. I'm going to have a couple of guest presenters as well. So tune in back again. I'm going to say 7 o'clock Tuesday. I've made that time up right now. 7 o'clock Tuesday officially. I will see you back here for the SNWS April outturn. We're not quite in April yet, but damn it, we're releasing these whiskeys early because some people are in desperate need of a whiskey right now. Slan Shivar. See you then.
Here's to whiskey kisses with the peachy taste of sin.